Hi, my name is Shaun Wilken. I'm the Strategic Solutions Specialist at A-Insights, and today we're going to be talking about the rise of India in frozen potato processing. So in our last video, we spoke about free trade agreements and how these were affecting the global flow of trade across the world. India being a key playmaker in this, and today we'll be deep diving into India and looking what this means. Why are we doing this? Because you've seen all of the media telling the story in headlines and short articles, but this might not be enough. And what we'll need to do is deep dive into this to see what it's all about. So let's create some context first. And the context here is that India produces the second most potatoes in the world and is growing rapidly. And when you compare India's growth rate to the other major exporting countries, you'll see that India is growing rapidly. Not quite as rapidly as Egypt or Pakistan. Now, India has a growing population. In 2023, it overtook China as the most populous country on Earth, and will continue to grow to 2050 while China subsides in population. Now, the consumption per capita in India is quite low, but if you compare this to the UK, but when you consider the size of the Indian population, this means rapidly growing consumption. So let's have a look at see how we got here. So what are the drivers behind this? And we see that potato production has risen significantly in India, not just in output and acreage, but also in yield as well. And although this shows the national average for processing potatoes, we normally see it higher than what you see on the screen now. India has been a closed market for the longest time with very high tariffs of 35%, which is quite isolated in trade. India has also been supported by optimistic forecasts on growth globally and in India. And here we'd like to say to you, please consider A-Insights as your primary source of insights for this market. Now, this has also been driven by equipment manufacturers supporting the growth in India and inflation in Europe, making European exports a lot less competitive to the developing markets. With support from Prime Minister Modi on the production-linked incentive scheme, which has really supported the growth of businesses in India, and global consumers wanting product from closer by and not traveling very large distances with CO2 emissions. So McCain was the first mover in India between 2005 and 2007 when they opened their processing plant in Mehsana in Gujarat. But the Indian industry hasn't all been plain sailing. There have been some challenges. And what we see is that whenever you make changes to a value chain, this sometimes leads to conflict between the players. So, for example, Himalaya had a fire issue in 2012, and again in 2022. We've seen late blight problems in 23 to 24. We've seen the West Bengal government stopping supply to states where opposition parties are in power. We've seen sourcing problems that have led to inflation and even public unrest as a result of that. So how do we get to this point? India has the Central Potato Research Institute, which has helped to create varieties that suit the climate conditions in India. We see that McCain has recently announced a new plant in Madhya Pradesh, which is going to be very, very large. And all of this on the back of very, very competitive pricing out of India when compared to the traditional leaders in frozen potato exports. Which means that India is starting to get traction in other markets. And here, if you look at the top 10 Indian export markets, you can see that Saudi, UAE, and Oman are starting to get Indian product. Now, This is in the background of more trade negotiations, not just India, UAE, but also India with the GCC. So what does this look like going forward? We see between now and 2030, India adding significant processing capacity compared to the previous industry leaders like Belgium and Netherlands. And we see that there are several players that are very dominant in the Indian market, notably McCain, Haifan, Iscon Balaji, Agristo, and Himalaya. The figure for McCain is speculative at this point. We're still looking and seeing what this expansion is going to be. So we did say that India was a closed market, but this is changing. And this is changing with free trade agreements like India and the GCC, but also with India and UK, although this has frozen and ambient potato excluded. The deal with Australia, where we see the tariffs being reduced from 5 to 0%, India, UAE, and even India with the FTA. Now, the FTA agreement puts Iceland at 0% duties for India, but Norway and Switzerland will still maintain import tariffs. Still in negotiation is India-EU and India-US. Also in negotiation is India with the Eurasian Economic Union. And if we wrap all of this up together, we can see what forces are at play in India. And if you message us, we will happily send this to you. So please give us some feedback on the material. Let's have a look at our conclusions. On the opportunity side, we see that India is processing through the maturity phases. You can see that the state-supported growth scheme has been highly effective, and that free trade agreements will open more opportunity for India going forward. This, however, leads to some threats for other parts of the market, where we see North American and European export pricing being less competitive. European exports specifically under pressure in the Middle East. And Europe will need to innovate and find digitalized efficiency to stay competitive in this market. So why did we create this video? Because this is a market movement that would not come under your scheduled work. This would be ad hoc. And we know that you're very, very busy at the moment. So we've created this ad hoc analysis for you to inform your stakeholders. Thank you very much.